Even though,
I
like
think
how can I'd say, okay, well, can I say one thing? Like, how I don't understand why so many people love a person like that when, like, anywhere in the world, like 90% of the population absolutely positively doesn't even live like that. How can you have a hero out there
because
representing you like that
because
when they don't even understand how you feel as a person? They don't even understand the average human being. Like, it's a joke.
because it's not about not feeling the average person. It's more the idea that uh the intelligent person sees tries sees reality for what it is. The simpler person sees a goal and sees possible dreams. They're the dreamers, and you always have to. And the thing about the
I
dreamers
mean,
is
that's not
they're the
true. I feel
ones.
like it still falls into anti-intelligence. I mean, like intelligent people or wise people aren't capable of dreams. I just really hate that whole dumb hero trope.
I
I
think,
just don't
but
like it. I'm so
here's
tired of it.
I think the point about it, I think you see, I think the reality of it is that like many people who are intelligent understand the world to be to li- is understand the world as complex and many situations as complex. But the beauty about simple people, the beauty about the people who are very simple is that they see it in such they don't see the world they don't because they can't really fathom the complexity of the world because it breaks them. Most people who are very kind of simplistic in this in certain ways are very much you tend to see that they break down in their psyche. They generally do. Like they can't because they can never fathom because they don't understand certain why people they don't understand motives of certain things because they were never because they lived life on easy mode and so when they're put to that kind of when they're put in that kind of stress mode, they generally break down a lot of the time. I mean, some people eventually learn and try better and whatever, but a lot of the time, some people are just like the people who are very simplistic like that and who don't have that mental acuity generally break down. Like
Mhm.
it's a struggle. That's like a good 80% of population. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing.
Okay. I'm kind of glad I didn't watch the series though. It just sounds cheesy. Yeah.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I'm trying to explain to you like the difference between the two characters. But essentially, the two brothers. There's six heroes in total. Two brothers, one best friend, a journalist work girl who later becomes the wife. And so many, and then a black guy. So many other people. And
Ah, but no
the
black
beauty and
woman. So typical.
yeah, sure. Well, I mean, later on, there's a future black woman, Anyway, but their
Is
origin
she
story
fully black?
starts. Dude, I do. Come on, man. Like, I don't. I don't want to. I can't. Could we? Let's get to that part. Like, I'm just trying to explain the movie, isn't it? So obviously they get to the point where the origin story is 1929. His father kills himself in front of him, like Wall Street crash. He gets the visions, and then he thinks he's crazy. Eventually, he tries to believe in that he's not crazy because he's being haunted by his father, being mentally tortured. All he sees is his father's disfigured face yelling at him, telling him that all these people are like, you should just kill them all and da 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 da. But he manages to kind of keep suffering through it, and eventually gets his best friend to believe him, and then they both go about to gather the rest of the people that was in his visions and go on the quest to this mystical to this random place in the middle of the ocean, which is an island and everything that he saw in his vision. Nobody believed him. They thought he was crazy until he was proven right. And they get to the island. They go through the tests of like they get to a point in the center of the island and they see other types of cultures, thousands different cultures, different people who also came to the island, Vikings and warriors from different generations, from different decades and thousands of generations before them, who killed each other
Okay, and they
in
get
this
their
place.
powers, right?
And then essentially, and because it's a test, so essentially after that they get their abilities, and as they get their abilities, they then and you see the entrance of the people. They come down, they dawn down as gods. You know what I mean? They essentially gods in
Oh,
1929.
okay.
You're talking like they're just powerful people. like super. But then when they receive their abilities from this creature thing, in the middle of space somewhere, like clearly near
Both
Jupiter.
brothers. Both brothers.
You're talking
Both
like
brothers.
there was six of them, six of them. So there was the two
Oh, what?
brothers.
They all got their powers together. They all got their powers together.
Yeah, because it's because the only way
Oh,
for
so
them
they're
to
like a
get
team. Okay. Oh, okay.
yeah, it's like a league. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like Justice League, but essentially, so basically, the only way they could have, the only way
Shazam.
that no, there's well, yes and no. The only way they could have received their powers, they received their gifts, is that they all had to be worthy, and the only way you can become worthy is all six of them must pass. And the way the test works is as soon as you get on the island essentially starts to challenge them in their different in starts to test them in terms of like their differences, their issues in between each other, and essentially they all. And what usually happens is for generations, different warriors will come to this place, and eventually they will just kill each other, and so they will always fail, because they are unworthy. But eventually, these people come together, and they all show that they are worthy, and resolve and sort of, like they accept their issues and resolve their issues, sort of, and then essentially, okay, not sort of, but essentially they resolve their issues and they pass through the gate and gain their powers. But when they receive their powers, the energy that was dawned upon them also had a ripple effect outwards into their world. So the people who were affected, so the boat that they took and the crew members of that people were also actually affected at the same time. Maybe their powers wasn't as great, but you see where I'm going here. So essentially,
Oh, so it's
they
like lesser
caused.
heroes out there.
Yes, they're not even lesser heroes. Like they essentially created when they gained their powers, they also created the possible villains.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
and
But all
so
right. Tell me about the new generation, though. Right. So,
okay, so
what's the relationship between the new generation, the old generation? What's the conflict of the story?
so Jupiter's legacy, they've been around for over 90 years protecting the world. Yeah, they've
Okay.
been around for 90. They've been around for 90 years protecting the world, saving lives, saving lives, kicking ass and everything. And they're like super old, like, and anyway, but essentially, the two heroes, what's his name, Union and Lady Liberty, the journalist and the younger brother, the one that everybody follows as a leader. They get together, they have two kids. One child, the youngest son, I think he's the youngest son anyway, or maybe they're twins. But one child wants to be, the son wants to be like his father with super strength, and eventually he will be he will be stronger than his parents because the argument here is obviously if they give birth to a child and they're both super, most likely the child will be eventually stronger. And as they age, they're starting to get weaker at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whereas more interestingly, the older sister, I think she's older, but the older sister seems to be actually more powerful. The son's more emotional. The older sister is very much like more powerful, but she's just like rebellious against the father because as he chose to be this godly world peace holding superhero, every time he goes off and saves, he's just leaving them alone. He's never around. He was basically he was always the superhero, never the father.
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
this sounds so boring. This sounds kind of like teen
Yeah, it
drama
is.
angst with
Yeah,
superpowers.
yeah.
I'm so
Well,
glad I didn't watch
except she's an
that.
adult.
Blech.
Except she's an adult. Except she's an adult. So it's very
Are
so
they
it's
all
very.
adults? Like, how old is she? Like, young adult or like
She's
25?
like she's like 20. So like I think she's like 20, 25. I think 22, 23,
Okay.
somewhere in between. She's in her 20s. Yeah, and
Okay.
so
All right.
but I mean, what's interesting about her is that she's gone off on her own. She's the only one that calls him out on his bullshit. That you're not a good father. Let's be honest. You're not a good father. You are always a superhero. But then the thing about it is but then the thing about it, when you watch it, she's that detestable like character. Like, I don't know, me as a person, you know me, I like that simple, overpowered. I like an OP character. I'm not gonna lie, who doesn't have that, who doesn't have that complexity in terms of things. So I like like an OP superhero like Superman and stuff like that. I do, but you know, because when I watch, but when you see like this, you know, person, don't get me wrong, she is ridiculously powerful. The girl is unbelievably strong. Like, she is their child. You know what I mean? Like, it's the funniest thing because like she's so overwhelmingly emotional and everything, and she has all these issues. But it's like, yes, it's like, okay, we get it that you have all these daddy issues, or you have all these.
But it doesn't even feel like real
personal.
problems. Like, I know family problems are
Yeah,
real,
that's the
but
thing.
it's
That's the
like
thing.
you lived a really
That's
good
the thing.
life. Like, just sure your dad wasn't around, but you know, other people have like real problems. This just sounds like a
Yeah,
series I
but
don't want to watch. It sounds like rich,
yeah.
overprivileged people having not real people problems. Like, if I want to
Well,
watch
I mean,
that, like, I want to watch actual rich people doing it instead of
well,
superheroes.
well, I mean, the mystery. I think the interesting part is that you find out. So the interesting part is that obviously, the interesting part is first you find out that the best friend, that the original, the person that actually believed in him in the very beginning, went against their. You find out that basically the best friend went against the code because he believed the code was wrong. Because supervillains were getting more violent and actually started killing heroes. And every time, and essentially they have created this kind of, I guess, corporation or foundation of heroes, of superheroes, from legacy children with, from children with powers, from all the other people that were infected with abilities at the same time.
Okay,
And
but the
so,
best friend is like, we should kill these people and put them out for good.
well, yeah, he says that we cannot live. The times have changed. We cannot live with these thingbobs anymore. And in the end, apparently something happened. They fought, and basically he lost, and he's on the run. And that's all you know when you enter the show. So right now, the guy's just
Oh,
gone
okay.
forever. Nobody knows where he is. But then you also find, but then you have this thing where like this ultimate bad guy shows up, and he's like, wow, okay. And this guy, this ultimate bad guy, like, what? Firstly, they captured him and he was in prison, but then he apparently escaped. They go after him, and this guy was just kicking everybody's ass. He killed like three. He killed like three superheroes before they were finally able to take him down. And it's only because the son had to break the rule, had to break his father's code, and literally punch this guy's face in to
Wow, that's
save his
crazy.
father's life. To save his father's life, then the father was disappointed in him for doing that, and you see him how the father he's talking to his therapist, and his therapist ends up being one of the criminals he put away who tried to kill him for over 20 years, and his
Oh,
therapist tells him this. Sorry. And anyway, and his therapist basically tells him this thing that basically you're upset at your son because he chose to save your life and everything, because you live by a code, and the code that you live by, you use this code because of what your father did to you, that he did that, he lied to you. You never saw the man that your father really was, that he basically he stole his work, he essentially used his workers pension fund to try and build his expansion plan in his business. And when the crash happened, he failed, and he basically put these people in the homeless, to make them homeless and in the poverty line. And that's who your father was. So when you gained your powers, you chose to try and live by, to try and rebuild the name and make it worth something. But reality is your code is your burden for yourself. You forcing it on other people is you're just getting people killed, because bad guys have changed. They're not, it's not as simple as it was before, where you just was overpowered and you could basically always save the day any way you wanted. Bad guys
oh,
are smarter
okay.
now, they're fast. You know what I mean? So because
Yeah.
you're talking like superheroes are just dying left, right, and center, and every time, because they live
All
by
right.
this
So
code.
everybody has to adapt, right? Everyone needs to like adapt to the
Well,
coming situation.
what is the whole
So
situation? Is the
yeah, I
whole
guess it's
thing?
because the world is just more violent in general, which is kind of interesting about how this show came out. Because when you think about superhero movies or TV shows, like years and years ago versus now, like things are just hyper violent. But that also kind of represents the fact that we're all very, very much aware that we live in a dystopic reality. And I really love how that, well, okay, I don't love that we live in a dystopia, but I really love how that affects media. Whereas like in this TV show, the golden age was like, you know, 60s, 20s, wherever, where everything was so black and white and simple, and, you know, the guy comes in and saves everyone with a 1-2 punch and then he goes to jail. Whereas now things are just more violent than before, more